Welcome to the next lesson for Design and Manufacture, where this lesson we'll be looking at design factors. So, by the end of this lesson, the goal will be that you know the design factors covered within the Design and Manufacture course. The way we'll check that you've definitely got this is that you'll be able to name all 5 design factors. You'll be able to give a description of each of the 5 design factors, and that you can use these design factors to describe products. So the first thing I'd like you to do is just think back to the last lesson and where are design factors going to fit. Have a think just now yourself. Will they fit in the design folio, the practical work, or the exam questions? Once you've had a think, having read the course specification that was part of the task last week, then you should know design factors are going to come up in all 3 areas. In the design folio, you'll need to consider each of the design factors as you're coming up with designs. For your practical work, it's where you'll need to consider making sure that you're producing products that are influenced by key design factors. And exam questions, you will have questions on the design factor, guaranteed. Throughout the exam, there will be multiple questions relating to design factors. Now, the first design factor we're going to discuss is function. And function is really what is the purpose, or what is the product designed to do. So I've got an example here of a spork, and if I asked you what would that do, what would you respond with? Is it to be able to pick up things? Is it to be able to pick up liquid with the spoon end? Is it so that you can cut things or separate or mash something? Now there's lots of different things you might argue that a spork has to do. Had I put a picture of a spoon there, or just a fork, then you might have said, well, that's much easier because it's got less functions, less jobs to do. When we're talking about function, we generally split it up into what the main job it has to do, and then any secondary functions, the additional jobs that it would have to do, but it might not be the main purpose of the product. Those would be the keywords that are really important for function. Something can have more than one secondary function. Some products, like your mobile phone, for example, have lots of functions. But within the course, we generally look at products that don't have too many primary or secondary functions. The next design factor is performance. Now, for this, there's a few different areas that you would need to consider. The maintenance, for how often do you need to do something to maintain or keep this product performing at its main function. Now my example here is a push bike. You can see it's for a toddler, small in size, doesn't have any pedals or chain. However, it does have a brake, and you can see on the wheels there are valves, so the wheels would need blown up to make sure that you don't have a flat tyre. That would be part of the maintenance, and you need to consider how good or how efficient the wheels are at keeping air in them. For how often would you want someone to have to replace the air and pump them up? This would be a big consideration for thinking how well this product would do its job. If you had to pump up the tyres every day, then you might say, well, it's not great for a toddler to be able to push about and ride on the bike. The life expectancy is how long are you expecting this product to last? Now this product here, this Porsche bike, is an interesting one because of the size. You would want to get a young child onto a proper bicycle after a point. So this is not going to last for an extremely long amount of time. But then, considering how long it lasts, you need to think, well, how is that going to impact on it doing its main function? So this, is it just to get them used to balancing on it? Then you might say, well, yeah, it doesn't have to have a long life expectancy, because once they've mastered balancing on the bike, they can move on to a bicycle with pedals. The next area is fitness for purpose. This is how good is it at doing its job. Now, you get some products that are really good. You get some products that are really bad at doing their jobs. You might have come across some products that you just hate to use. Some examples we usually use are things like peelers or can openers. Is something that isn't ideal, especially if you're left-handed instead of right-handed. Those types of products can be challenging. Now, fitness for purpose is always related to how well it does the job for its main function. Then we've got safety. Now, safety you always have to be careful with. Sometimes people get hung up on saying things must be safe, and the SQA are not after you pointing out the obvious. So, safety in relation to the performance of its main function. So, for this bicycle, you might say, well, it's a balance bike. You need to be able to balance, so the width of the handles is important because they might fall over to begin with using it. You can notice the handles look like they've got rubber bits on them, so that when the bike goes over onto its side, it's going to cushion the fall slightly, but hopefully won't damage the rest of the balance bike. So whenever you're talking about safety, always try to relate it to specific safety considerations for the performance, how it does the main function. Don't waste any time talking about generic safety, such as all of it needs to be rounded edges or no sharp parts, because that's a given. We are looking for the safety within its performance. The next design factor is market. Now, for this one, you have to consider first, who is the target market? Who are you making this product for, or who is this product being made for? That's a really crucial thing to consider, because if you make something for a group and it doesn't appeal to them, are they even going to buy it? Depending on who you've designed it for, depending on the target market, depends how many people are going to buy your product, which might change what it's made from, because obviously if it was something that was bespoke, made in a small batch and handmade, you might not want to make too many of them, because it would be too difficult to make a lot if you were making for a very large group. The next one's marketing techniques, and that's how do you advertise or promote a specific product. Now, is that by thinking about advertising it on the telly or on YouTube? Again, this might link back to the target market, because you need to think, how can I promote or advertise this so people are going to see it and want this product? Another area is branding. Now, my example here in the image is Beats, and Dr. Dre Beats was one of the big things for branding this type of headphone. That gives it credibility and it gives it some sort of recognition. There are certain products that when you hear it, you think, oh, Nike sports products, for example. People tend to think it's Nike, it will be high quality because it has the branding of Nike. You have a trust in a particular brand. Next area of market we have is technology push, and this is when changes in technology really drive forward and change how a product is specifically working. Again, coming back to these headphones, wireless headphones is a great example of technology, the wireless Bluetooth technology and batteries developing and really pushing to how can we then incorporate this in a product such as headphones that have been about for quite a long time. The last one's market pull. And this is where when people are buying in a particular way to go in a particular direction, which then makes people quickly create products so that you're going with the market and how people are buying. So again, using the headphones as an example, wired headphones were very popular. There was a big range of them. Then, as wireless headphones started taking off and they became more and more popular, then more manufacturers of headphones decided to make wireless headphones to join in with this, how people were buying this type of product. The next design factor is aesthetics. This is to do with how does the product look. Now, the image here I've got is the Alessi lemon squeezer. It's a famous product for being an object that looks really interesting and unique. You would put the lemon on the top, the juices would run down the grooves on the side of the lemon squeezer, coming down the side, and then would drop down to the area at the bottom. Now, generally it doesn't work that well. However, it's a statement piece. It's something that looks very dramatic. Now, for aesthetics, a good way to think about it is for how you can describe aesthetics, other than just saying it looks nice, because if you say that, that won't be good enough for our course. So, some of the areas within aesthetics you can talk about would be shapes that are used, thinking of geometric shapes, the overall form the object has, any particular textures the object has, the colours that are used for this object, and any patterns within or on the object. The last design factor is ergonomics, and ergonomics is to do with how the human interacts with the product. It's about it being comfortable and easy to use for the desired user or target market of the product. So we can split ergonomics into 3 areas. The first one being anthropometrics or anthropometric data. This is the average sizes of people. We can get the data for a wide range for males and females. We can get it for children, teenagers, adults, and in more and more detail. And within that data, you'll have what the average size is, what the largest size is, what the smallest size is. So you can design your product to consider, how do I make a product that will fit in the average person's size of hands, for example. So I've got an example of a concept PlayStation controller here, and you can see the analog sticks are a nice example. If you think how you would hold this product and where your hand would be on the product, and how your thumb would have to reach over to get to the analog stick, to get to the directional buttons, to get to these middle buttons here, and then you'd need your forefinger to get to the shoulder buttons. Now, think that size is quite important that your thumb can reach. If your thumb can't reach, you can't use the controller. You might have seen this issue with maybe a little brother or sister if you've had them using a controller and not being able to quite reach. So anthropometric data is all about people sizes and designing something to fit a particular group and a particular size, the small or the medium or the large sizes. The next area we've got is physiology, and that's how challenging or how much effort you need to put in to use a particular part of a product. Now it could be the overall weight. So if you think if this controller was very heavy because of the battery, that would be quite tiring on your hands and your arms to hold it, so you wouldn't say it was a good product. Similarly, if one of the buttons was really hard to push, then you'd say that's could be quite a pain on your thumb or your fingers to be able to push it, which it would make people think this is not a good product or easy product to use. And then the last one is psychology, and that is how a product makes you think. Now, again, using this controller as an example, if you think just with the image, is it clear where the buttons are and what buttons are used for what? Can you get an idea of the buttons that you'd have to use? Is there a clear button on here that looks like a play button to say that's how you begin? You could say that's designed that way so that it's intuitive, so that you understand it before even looking at it. In terms of an instruction manual, you can just tell by glancing at its product, and you can see the start button looks like a play button, so it's obviously something to begin something happening. Now that we've covered all the design factors, what I'd like you to do is complete the table on the page called Design Factors within your own space of the class notebook. I would like you to list all 5 design factors and put a short description in your own words for each design factor. The last thing, which is really important, is I would like you to pull out the key words that's related to each design factor. You may need to rewind this video and just listen to my descriptions again to identify what are the key words that I'm using for each design factor. Just pause the video now and go and do that. Perfect. Now that you've done that, we want to check and make sure you're happy with each design factor. If you're unsure or you need more of a description for any of them, if you go to the content library on the class notebook, and in the design area, the design factors one, you'll find there's lots of PowerPoints, text, images to describe the design factors in much more detail. So if there's any you're like, I still don't quite understand that one, take some time now to go to the content library and read up on each one that you're not sure about. The other thing you can do if you're not sure is use the posts wall and Teams to ask for some extra examples, and I can pull out some particular ones I think would be really good to explain a design factor to you. Okay, so we've got the design factors. You now feel confident with all 5. I want you to go to your design factors page on the class notebook, and there's a second table on it. I would like you to pick products from your home. I always think it helps if you can see the product or you can pick up, you can touch it to consider the design factors for it. Now for each product, I would like you to describe it using a design factor. Now I would like you to pick more than one product during this task. So I have put an example on the class notebook where I have not put the design factor in, but I've named the product a TV remote and I've put a description there so that you can see, okay, how have I described it to then get it so you can get to a design factor. So pause this video, go and try and do it for the 5 different design factors. Okay, so to wrap up this lesson, the purpose of this lesson was to cover the design factors that are in the Design and Manufacture course. We wanted to check that you have learnt everything in this lesson with these 3 points at the bottom. Can you name all 5 design factors now? If you can't, watch the video back. Go back to listing them. Do some self-testing, try and get them stuck in your head. Ask people at home to test you on it. Can you describe each of the 5 design factors? If the answer is no, then again, go back to the video or go back to the notes and see if you can go back over that content to get a description stuck in your head. And then the last one is, can you use these design factors when you're talking and describing a product. So you should have done that on the task that we've done, but that's where you can try it by just talking about it with someone at home and them knowing, having the information of what the design factors actually are.